April 26, 2024, special meeting of the City Council for the City of Lake City to order. Everyone is stand for the pledge of allegiance or make sense to the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather and conduct the business of our community. We ask for your blessing on this meeting. We ask that you give us guidance that what we do is pleasing in your eyes and for the betterment of our community. Look after our citizens, our troops, and our first responders. In your name we pray. Amen. Next item, you call the roll.
Mr. Jernigan?
Present.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Ms. Young? Here. Mr. Carter?
Present.
Mayor Witt?
Here.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Martin?
Here.
And Assistant Chief Miles.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and council, has opened the public meeting since 1968. City code prohibited any person from making personal, pertinent, or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous while addressing the city council. Yelling or making audible comments from the audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There's only one approved manner of addressing the council, city council. That's to be recognized and speak from the podium. As a reminder, persons are not to openly carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the government body is meeting. Failure to abide by these rules of decorum will result in removal from the meeting. Approval of the agenda, is there a motion?
Approved, Mayor. Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda is published. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, a couple of matters. First of all, we talked earlier, and at one time we said we weren't gonna make a decision today. I don't know that we've readdressed it in the last couple of meetings. What's the pleasure of council?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
it is my opinion that we've all had the opportunity to meet with them individually after these two interviews. I believe that it would behoove us to make a decision today. We're about to be going into budget cycles, and I think that whoever gets this position deserves as much time as possible to be involved in that. I don't see any particular reason to kick the can to a further meeting.
All right, any other opinions?
Well, I agree. I think we need to make a decision today. We've gone long enough without a city manager, so I think today will be.
Anybody else?
If no unexpected situations arise.
Okay. Now, the second issue is we have a set of questions that were provided to us and a score sheet. And then I have received questions from Mr. Hill and Ms. Young. And we're scheduled for an hour. So how do y'all want to just do an hour's worth of questions and everybody pick whatever question they want, or how do y'all want to do that?
Well, the way we've done in the past, with the question that was provided, whenever, if you went, start with Ms. Young or Mr. Jernigan, and went around until everybody have to ask their questions.
Right.
So, like I said, I only have 5 questions.
Ms. Young?
So I would ask all of my questions.
So we're gonna do more than an hour?
No, I don't think so, but how do we know that? How can we arrange that?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get ahead of. We're scheduled for an hour. I think this has got 1, 2, 6, 12. Like 12 questions, and Jake has 6, and you have 9. Okay, 5.
Mayor, I have 9, but I don't have 9 just per se that I'm gonna ask all 9 questions.
Okay,
It actually depends on how the questioning goes.
okay. So I'm assuming we'll all ask what we want to ask, and we'll go about an hour, see where we're at. Okay? All right, the way we've done it in the past is, start down there with Mr. Jones, and let him ask the first question, Jake, me, Mr. Carter, Ms. Young.
Mr. Mayor, before we commence with the questions, just having heard council's discussion, if the candidates are not necessarily going to be asked the same identical questions, then I would suggest that doing any kind of numerical scoring for their answers would not be worthwhile, because you wouldn't be comparing apples to apples on the numerical scoring. And so, and it's fine if you don't. It's prudent if you do ask the same questions. It's fine if you don't. But if you don't, then it kind of negates the value of doing any kind of numerical score. So if you're not going to do it, there's no need to keep a numerical score. Just do it on a your subjective impressions of what their answers are, and based on that, when you get to the decision-making point, you would put your impressions of their responses together with your impressions of the candidates at the meet and greet last night, your impressions from your one-on-one interviews, and all of that together, would be what you would base your individual decisions on to come to a collective decision as a body.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
And just for the record, I put a copy of my questions at each one of your seat. And the same question that I'm gonna ask Mr. Butler, I will ask Mr. Rosenthal.
If everybody, when they ask a question, would refer to what they're asking from, like if you say, provided questions number 4 or 5, so we can mark them off and not have somebody ask the same question twice. Okay, Mr. Johnson?
You said, well, it looked like we already got the questions here, and of course, I won't be asking the same questions as Mr. Hill. I think, the questions already here. I'm just gonna go through the 6 or 12 that they have here. I think it's 12. And that's it. That's the way I'm gonna go about doing it.
Take off.
Okay? Good afternoon, Mr. Butler. How you doing, sir?
Good, thank you. How about you?
First of all, I'd like to take this time to let you know that I am thrilled to know that you applied for this position. And good luck to you. And again, it's a tough decision that we have to make sometimes, but sometimes we have to make those decisions, okay? I'm gonna start off by the city manager question that was given to me. I don't know, I have no idea where the questions come from or anything like that. I couldn't, I don't know how many people got them to share it to them or whatever, but I'll start off with number 1. What particular skills or experience make you the best match to be the city manager?
I've been a police officer for 40 years. The last 20 years, I've been in command positions. When I retired from the Milford Connecticut Police Department for 2 years, I was deputy chief. Prior to that, I was the administrative and patrol captain for many years. Administrative and detective captain for many years. When I came to Lake City as assistant police chief, I assisted Chief Gilmore with the budgeting management of the department. About 2.5 years ago, when Chief Gilmore resigned to go back to Tallahassee, I took over as the police chief. I've been in that capacity ever since with that budgeting, strategic planning. In that position, I've also worked closely with the city council, members of the community, that includes the business community. I'm very familiar with the needs of Lake City. I believe it's a great community. It's on the verge of expansion, and I want to be part of that.
Okay, Mr. Butler. Do you have any knowledge or experience in utilities?
No, I do not.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm asking a question too. What aspects of your previous current position did you find the most professionally challenging?
Budgeting is always challenging. Especially the police department, the community's expectations of what the department does keeps changing. We have to keep track of the new trends and different ways of performing our core functions. I've relied heavily on technology and also doing my best to retain quality personnel and recruiting quality employees.
All right, I'm asking question 3 of the provided questions. Chief Butler, how do you encourage, motivate, and develop staff? And what ways have you found to promote morale?
I believe in the servant leadership style. That style is one where you take the individuals that are working for you and you train them and elevate them so that, perfect example, if I'm not here, my assistant chief is fully able to take over the duties of the police chief. I expect him to do the same thing with the lieutenants. So if he's not here, the lieutenants. So you move down, you empower the employees and give them and work on their abilities. We also, as far as morale goes, we have training. If somebody has a particular interest and there's training available, I look to send them to that training, especially if it would benefit the agency. That way it keeps them interested and motivated. Obviously, pay is another big issue, but with a quality employee, with somebody that really wants to do the job, that's not the sole issue. It is the work environment. They want to be heard. I'll give you a perfect example. I was talking to one of my officers. They were talking about out on patrol, and I told them, I said, look, I haven't worked a patrol car since 1996. You know about it more than I do. What are your ideas how we can make it easier on you? And the other thing you have to be mindful of, if we change policies, where from my position it might be a minor change, it could have a major impact on the employees, including their morale. So you have to be mindful of that, and that's where your subordinates and supervisors and managers all come into play.
Question, Mr. Butler today. What is it about Lake City that wants you to become, that makes you want to become Lake City City Manager?
It's the potential of the city. There's a lot of growth going on. I believe there's a lot more that could come our way. Getting with the business community, seeing about the existing businesses, helping them grow, and with that, bringing in more businesses from the outside, getting good paying jobs in the city. Housing is another issue. We have a lot of housing going up. So with all that going together, streamlining processes, not putting up roadblocks to businesses coming in, I believe all those things are something that I could help work on as the city manager.
Two-part question, how can you help, or how would you help?
A lot of it's technology. We do a lot of things by paper. It goes from department to department, just streamlining it, working with the county in areas where it's beneficial to the city. Let's say the building department, something as simple as maybe having them both in the same building so the person could come in, one-stop shop, get everything done, and begin working on their project.
Mr. Butler, tell us about the most difficult management decision you have had to make in the past, and how did it work, and what would you have done differently?
The one that comes to mind is the decision to move the city dispatch center over to the county. The reason it's difficult is we have city employees that are dedicated employees that we're effectively going to lay off and move them over to the county. And they wanted to stay as employees of the city. That wasn't an easy decision to make because it impacts people's lives. But the decision to consolidate our dispatch center is going to save lives. And that really was a driving factor. What I would have done differently is, in hindsight, I would have brought HR, both HR departments in earlier, and kept the employees more in the loop as to what was going on. I found out later that was some frustration from them because they didn't know what was going on. I thought they were getting information, but it wasn't trickling down, at least not accurately.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, if you would, can you have Ms. Young and Mr. Butler pull their mics closer to them? Because
I was gonna ask that, I didn't know you couldn't hear me, but I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Mr. Butler, do you have any knowledge or experience in public works?
No, I do not.
Thank you.
Question 5, tell us about your experience creating, administrating, and implementing policies charter provisions and ordinances.
As far as policies, procedures, the Lake City Police Department is a fully accredited agency with the state. We're constantly creating policies, modifying policies based on court decisions or best practices. As far as ordinance goes, I've been involved with the city attorney. Some of the ordinances that were drafted, I had input as to how they would be written. Currently working on an ordinance, if the city council approves it, as far as school zone cameras, which for speeding, which is another ordinance that we'd be looking at.
Question 6. Please describe your experience with budgeting and financial management.
Well, as a police chief, I have to budget for the police department and submit my budget to the city manager. Last year, our budget was approximately $6.6 million. Obviously, it's a line item style budget, so we have to have our areas where we can, we know how much we're gonna spend. We try and save money wherever we can, but all of that and then planning as to what we're gonna be doing in the future. Because as we know, patrol cars have to be replaced, new technologies, upgrades of current systems, all that has to be part of the budgeting process.
Question about affordable housing. Do you have any experience addressing affordable housing?
No.
Well, we know that that is an issue here. So if you become city manager, how would you approach this if you become city manager? What are your accomplishments in this area? Would you say you have no experience, but we'll have to deal with it, so we need an answer to that question.
Absolutely. Affordable housing is critical. In the city, we do have some apartments going up and some other developments. We need to get with the county, figure out how we can best put together a plan. I think one of the things that we need to do is also get up to Tallahassee, see what kind of funding would be available for our community to kickstart this kind of grant, and then work that into the overall plan for the expansion of the city.
Okay, please explain getting with the county to come up with the plan.
If there's areas where the county could get funding, or we both work together for a funding source and pool our funding together, we might be able to do more together when we can apart. But again, anything that I would recommend we do from the city point of view would have to be beneficial to the city.
Right, from the city point of view, we have the city. Can we just deal with the city?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let's just deal with the city. And we know that there's an urgent matter for affordable housing. We have to tackle it. What are you gonna do?
Get with the state, see what they've done in the past, what has worked. I'd look to maybe go to the Florida League of Cities, talk to some of the other cities and see what plans or programs they have in place that have worked. Get with some of our local builders and see what they recommend. Again, I'd also get with T. Johnson, who has been working very well as the assistant city manager, interim city manager, and work with that. You have to get Steve Brown involved with utilities, because wherever we do put affordable housing, we have to make sure that's on the utility lines. There's a lot of things that would have to fall into place along with the funding.
Chief Butler, please describe your experience with strategic planning.
Police department, that's pretty much what we do. Not just next year, but the year after. Keep up on what is going on, our gunshot detection system, our license plate readers going in, expansion, our computer systems, merging them with, in order to get our combined dispatch going. Not little, but the fact that our radio system upgrade, we lease, we're instead of purchasing, so we could spread out the costs over a while, like our body cameras and that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Butler, how would you approach the need for more economic development and highlight any experience?
I have no experience in that area. I get with the economic development, sit down with them. There's a lot of businesses that when we stopped over, where keep telling us they're looking to get businesses in. One of the areas I know as far as utilities, talking with Director Brown, Executive Director Brown, is when they use these anonymous names that you don't know who the business is, there's no way for the city to plan on any utility lines, what's gonna be run. If you're bringing in a business, say, that is heavily water dependent, the city needs to know about that before economic development's making deals with them, because we might need to do something in order to get the proper water lines out there. So we have to work in coordination with them, with the Chamber of Commerce, and also the local businesses. Bring them in, find out what's going on, how do we grow the existing businesses that we have.
Okay, question 8, with continuing physical constraints, what do you believe are the keys to cities managing increased demands for services?
Annexation. I believe the city needs to annex properties. Nobody likes to raise taxes, especially in these economic times. Annexation is the way. We've got enclaves in the city which need to be brought in to the city to get them on the tax rolls. We look into the areas where we already have utility lines, see about expanding out into there, because we've already got the infrastructure in place. Get them into the city, get our tax base increased, and that way we can anticipate for our budgeting an increased budget without increasing the tax load on the citizens.
Question 9. How would you establish credibility and build trust with elected officials, department directors, staff, and the citizens if hired as city manager?
I believe I've already done that. In the 10 years I've been here, 8 as the assistant chief and 2+ as the chief of police. I've worked extensively with the city council. I've been a part of the directors for, even when I was the assistant chief, I was brought into many of the directors' meetings. I have working relationships with everybody. They know me, I know them very well. As far as the citizens go, I think I've proven to be very approachable. I'll listen to citizens' problems, sometimes even if it's not a police issue, and steer them in the right direction, or I make contact with that department, whether it's city, county, state, and in one case federal, to try and take care of that problem.
Mr. Butler, what do you see as key issues facing our city?
Economics, obviously, the lack of good paying jobs. We bring in businesses, we need to bring in businesses that are good paying jobs. Training, getting our youth into programs where they can get job skills. We do have the summer youth employment program with the police department, with the, where we bring them in for the summer. They work for businesses, they get job skills. This gets them ready for when they do graduate and get out into the job market, they're better able to compete against other individuals. That's part of it. Training, maybe work with the college, see what kind of training is available, we might be able to participate in that. And the other part is with our own employees, get some kind of program where they're better able to, through the city, get training. So your base employees, the ones who are out there doing the day-to-day work, if a supervisory position comes up, they're better able to compete for that position. That helps morale. We know those individuals are not bringing people in from the outside, and that way we don't know what we're getting. And it gives us a more educated employee pool.
Back over here, Chief. What would we learn about you if we contact citizens from your current and most recent community?
Well, that'd be here. And I believe the big, I'm a straight shooter, I'll tell you how it is. I won't make you a promise I can't keep. If I can't give you an answer, I'll tell you that, and I'll go find out the situation and get back to you with the answer. I try not to sugarcoat things, and that's pretty much how I operate.
Mr. Butler, do you have a comprehensive plan if you are hired as the next city manager?
Written, no. I know where I'd like to get together with the directors, put together a plan. Every director knows their department and their responsibilities better than I do. The only agency that I tell you that's not true with is the police department. I would get together with them, find out what the needs, how we can do things better, other departments can work together to maybe do it better and cheaper, put that plan together and implement it so that we can move forward. But I think it would be premature without getting together with all the directors to put together a plan without their input.
Okay, thank you.
From your current vantage point, what do you perceive to be the opportunities and challenges facing the city of Lake City now and in the future?
I believe the opportunities for Lake City are endless. Everybody's looking at Lake City when you're looking at businesses, you're looking at the highways, you're looking at transportation. You know, Warner Trucking is a perfect example. They came here because we were located. Housing prices, while they're higher than they used to be, are still a lot cheaper than South Florida. I think we market ourselves very well. We start getting some business here, we start getting the population growing, which now makes the businesses look at us. Along with that, we have to work on educating our workforce. And again, that's the college is a great asset for that. Larry Barrett out at the college is always willing to see about a new program to help train. But just like in the police department with the sponsorship program I have for police officers, when there's jobs in there, we have to look at what we can do to put our local citizens in a position to get those jobs. And whether that's through education, through apprenticeships, through mentoring, and a lot of these are not high cost items.
If you become the new city manager, what do you believe would be your greatest resources to help transition into the position?
The greatest resources would be Dee Johnson and the department directors. Again, Dee knows his job. He's very good at it. Hopefully he stays here a long, long time. I think he's a great asset to the city. Our directors are a very strong group of directors. They're the ones that make everybody look good. The assistants and the employees, from the newest employee through people who've got 20, 25, 30-year pins, they're the greatest asset to the city. We can always replace equipment, but you're never going to replace the employees' institutional knowledge of how things are being done. And that is, I think, one area where our current pay structure doesn't reward those people. And that's something, compression, we really need to look at.
Mr. Butler, tell us about your most significant accomplishment and what was the accomplishment and who helped you to achieve it?
Well, besides my wife staying married to me for as long as she has, becoming chief of police. I worked for 30 plus years. Again, back to my wife, I went back to college late in my career. I was a lieutenant when I went back to college. I had 2 young kids. My wife's the one who I was working full time. I was going to college. I was getting my degrees. She worked full time. She kept the family together with the kids. They were younger. As far as that goes, my former chief of my last agency was very supportive. Sent me to the FBI National Academy, which is a leadership academy in Quantico, Virginia. Also sent me to the Police Executive Research Forum Senior Management Institute for Police, which is another high-level management school for law enforcement executives. That placed me in a position where when I did put in for the assistant police chief's job here, I was able to get it. I worked here 8 years proving myself, sort of OJT training, and then I was fortunate enough to be promoted to chief of police when Chief Gilmore resigned, and I think I've been proving myself ever since.
Okay, Mr. Butler, what makes you qualified to be the next city manager?
My knowledge of the city, my knowledge of the executive level management of the city, my knowledge and ability to work with the city council. I've been working with each of you, some for a decade, some since you came to office. I know what most of the citizens of the city are looking for, at least from law enforcement perspective or the business, because a lot of the meetings I've attended, even with the businesses or the citizens, even though a lot of it is focused toward the police department or law enforcement, they will go on as far as there's nothing to do in the city, there's nothing for the kids, there's the business opportunities or the job opportunities aren't there beyond, what's going on. And I've been hearing over the years their concerns.
But Chief, everything that I have asked you pretty much pertains to a city manager. And your reply have been pretty much no and nothing, no. But yours, to me, your strongest point is our city chief. And my opinion is we need a city manager. And not a police chief as our city manager. That's all I have.
I have one more that I really want to ask. What is, Mr. Butler, what is the highest profile public issue in which you've been involved? What was the outcome and what would you do differently?
Well, the highest profile is, had to be back when I was a detective captain. We had an officer from another agency commit sexual assault, and myself, because I was in charge of the detective division and an investigator was assigned to handle that. We ended up knowing the family of the officer, and we had to do our investigation, and we ended up making an arrest, and he ended up doing jail time.
What would you do differently?
Probably, well, actually, keep the family a little bit more informed. We treated them a little differently because he was a law enforcement officer and we didn't want to make it look like we were giving them special privileges. And in hindsight, we actually probably treated them worse than we would the parents, than we would somebody normally. That's probably the biggest mistake we made. And
Was that because you was intentionally treating them differently?
we did because we didn't want to make it look like we were giving the parents more information than we would give anybody else. And obviously the media was all over that investigation.
I have another question. I do have one more question. Do you have another?
Go ahead.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, I'd just like to thank the council for the opportunity to apply. And again, one way or another, I'm not going anywhere. So, but again, I'd like to thank everybody for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Chief, again, for you to apply for the city manager position and come as far as you did, I applaud you as a chief, and I hope the best in this interview process. Also, I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you for going on the tour with us. Did I leave any stones unturned?
That was pretty comprehensive.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate that. And we went north, east, south, and west, and we covered 10, 12, 13, and 14, if I'm not mistaken. So I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you for going on that tour with me. That meant the world to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more thing, Mr. Hill. Granted, I don't have experience with utilities. No city manager is going to have experience in every field, not a city manager. That's why we have directors. I have Steve Brown. I have Dee Johnson. They've got a lot of knowledge, and the other directors, Osborne and the other directors in utilities, they're the subject matter experts. I'd venture to say that whoever comes up here does not have as much experience I do as in public safety with the city, which is another serious aspect of what a city manager is responsible for. So while, granted, I have deficiencies in some areas, I have strengths in others. So, and I'm a quick learner. So what I need to learn, I'll make sure I do. And again, Dee Johnson is the biggest, and Steve Brown are the biggest crutches I could have. And trust me, I'll utilize them as much as I can.
May I?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say this, and everybody knows probably how I feel about this. And what I do not want to happen, and it's not my first time saying it, Dee Johnson is not the city manager. And we don't want a city manager to come in just carrying the title. If D. Johnson was gonna fulfill the responsibilities, then he should have been named city manager. Whoever comes in here will definitely be expected to carry out the responsibilities and the duties of city manager. D. Johnson may be assistant city manager, and hopefully those are the responsibilities he will carry out. He will not be city manager on the other side of the hallway, and I mean that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're a little early. Y'all want to take a break?
Yes, sir.
And start back about 10 till or so.
Schedule
too, right? When you schedule, we're gonna start.
Yeah.
So we're not doing any public comments?
Yeah, after we get through with Ms. Rosenthal.
Oh, so you're gonna interview all two, and then I thought we were gonna do one after each, like you normally do on the agenda.
We don't.
Wait,
That was the reason.
Okay, we'd like to continue the April 26, 2024 special call city council meeting. Welcome, Mr. Rosenthal. Thank you for being here today to participate this week. The way we've done it, we've done questioning from, starting with Mr. Jernigan and going by, and everybody picking their questions they want to ask. Anything else from anybody? All right, Mr. Jernigan?
Hey, Mr. Don Rosenthal, thank you for taking this time out to come from Pasco County up here for this interview process, and we really appreciate all of your efforts, okay?
Well, thank you for having me, Councilman.
Yes. I'll start off with this first question. What particular skills or experience make you the best match to be the city manager?
Well, I'm thinking the skills that have to do with economic development, with managing public works and sewers, with managing departments, all the departments that you have here, we've managed in Pasco County, and my years of experience doing just that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Rosenthal, do you have any knowledge or experience in utilities?
Yes,
Would you care to explain?
yes. And when in Pasco County, I was in charge of stormwater for the county. Now, water utilities were separate, but we were in charge of stormwater.
Thanks.
Okay, question two, what aspects of your previous current position did you find the most professionally challenging?
Well, as always, managing people is always difficult, but it's also, while there's a level of difficulty, there's also a level of pleasure and enjoyment when you do it successfully. And we were fortunately able to do it successfully for 7 years in Pasco County.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosenthal, how do you encourage, motivate, and develop staff? And what ways have you found to promote morale?
Well, being honest and straightforward, doing what you say you're gonna do and working with staff, training staff, and helping staff to learn their job before you ask them to do a job that they don't understand.
Again, welcome to Lake City.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Talking with you, you know a whole lot about Lake City, which lets me know that you've done your research, you've done your exploring, and to learn about this city in which you're interested in the city manager position. So I appreciate your interest in our city as well as in the city manager position. But what is it about Lake City that makes you want to become our city manager?
Well, thank you for the question, Councilwoman. I think that Lake City is in a unique position right now. I'm sure, as you all know, construction is starting to boom here, and it's going to be booming a lot more. So it has to be organized in a way so that the burden of that construction is not on the back of the taxpayer, or it's with the developers that are doing it through your impact fees and your permit fees. And I've done that, you can see from my resume, my entire life for one city or another. I've been all over the country, Atlanta, Reno, Nevada, Chicago, all over.
Mr. Rosenthal, tell us about the most difficult management decision you have had to make in the past, and how did it work out, and what would you have done differently?
Well, I had to make a decision once when I was dealing with one of my department heads. The department head had asked about impact fees. She had asked what portion of the impact fees that I wanted to report to the county administrator on. I told her report on the impact fees that, on the permits that had impact fees, but the permits that didn't have impact fees, I didn't feel that there was a need to talk about those, because the question only applied to impact fee permits. Long story short, I was on vacation. The county administrator came in and was very upset because the clerk told him that we had lost 32,000 permits. She didn't understand that the director had only given the permits that had impact fees. So he had threatened to do some things and to her that was just uncalled for. So when I got back, I defended her, and he said that, well, I'm gonna fire you. I went to the board told him, you're not gonna fire him. So I was demoted, but the person kept their job and they retired from that area. So what I would have done differently, I would have spent some time working on the county administrator's hurt feelings. I went to the public with him and kind of worked on massaging those feelings so he wouldn't have been so embarrassed. It's totally his fault in making a rash determination without even talking to me, because I was in charge of that whole area. But I could have handled it better. I got a little upset myself and said some things that I probably shouldn't have said in retrospect, because to me it was very silly. But I looked at it the wrong way. What I've learned from that is that always take the other person's feelings, no matter how silly I feel they are personally, into account and address it accordingly.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Rosenthal, this is my question. Do you have any knowledge or experience in public works?
Absolutely. I was in charge of public works when I first came to Pasco County in 2014. And our public works, we also was in charge of traffic signals and traffic lights. We repaired traffic signals, traffic lights, we monitored traffic with monitors back at the station.
Thank you.
Okay. Tell us about your experience creating, administering, and implementing policies, charter provisions, and ordinances.
Okay. Well, I guess the biggest example of that is with the Acela program. When I was brought into Pasco County, I was brought in for development. They were having problems setting up a program called Acela. They've been trying for 5 years. So we came in, we hired some more people, brought in a team to work with existing staff, and we were able to get that program up in 9 months. Program had faults in it, so we worked another year, 13 months to get the faults out. But it allowed the level of development that they're experiencing right now. And it went from, Pasco County went from about 700 million in 2014 to about 2.2 billion today.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosenthal, please describe your experience with budgeting and financial management.
Okay. My master's degree is in finance and accounting, and I budgeted and managed my departments. My departments combined was about $487 million. I think that's more than the entire budget for the city. And we did that on a yearly basis for 7 years.
Mr. Rosenthal, tell us about your experience with addressing affordable housing issues. How would you approach this if you become city manager? And what are your accomplishments in this area?
Well, we would look for alternatives to the existing situations, taking properties that are not being used now and maybe converting them. But before we do anything, you have to look at the finances of it and whether or not it makes sense. I'm a big believer in the numbers. I run the numbers to see if the numbers make sense and run it by finance. And I develop and present a plan. I will present a plan to the board to address a certain need.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosenthal, please describe your experience with strategic planning.
Well, I've often used a SWOT analysis, looking at the strengths, weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats of an organization. And from that, working with the board to come up with a strategic plan. And from that plan, developing also a vision and using that to guide the actions of the board to make those things that you wanted a reality.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Rosenthal, do you have a comprehensive plan if you are hired as our next city manager?
I will be developing a comprehensive plan. I made in the package that I passed out to everyone, about 12 pages in from the beginning, my ideas about a plan right now, some things that I would be doing. But I would have to talk to the department heads to get some, this was just information for me looking from the outside. Your department heads know more about their departments than I would ever at this point. And after talking to them, I would come up with a comprehensive plan and show it to you for your approval.
Thank you.
With continuing fiscal constraints, what do you believe are the keys to cities managing increased demands for services?
Well, increased demand for services it's going to be increased even more, because as your need for development increases, the demands on services increase in lockstep with that. Couple of things you got to address hiring people enough to actually do the work. Also using technology so that you won't have to hire as many as you would have had you not used technology. And I know for a fact that your staff is already looking at some new technology for things like your meeting agenda And we would continue that for something like maybe even a seller for here for your development process. And we would use technology to help you do more with less, so to speak. And then you would also have to hire people for specific skill sets. Because without those specific skill sets, if they're missed on plans, you could be sued as an entity. And that would avoid that.
Good, thank you.
How would you establish credibility and build trust with elected officials, department directors, staff, and the citizens if hired as city manager?
Well, I think that the quickest and easiest way to do that is just to do what you say you're gonna do, to be reliable, to be a person that they can talk to. And I would establish an open door policy so that anybody can walk through the door and you know, with some restraints, you know, and talk about whatever. I'm a big believer in meeting and working as a team and taking the best idea from the group. Because your department heads are your strongest assets, and they're the ones that I would lean on to help get things done.
Mr. Rosenthal, how would you balance economic development with preserving the essential character of the city?
Well, every situation that I could foresee that would threaten that, I would bring it before the board with my recommendation. And the board could actually go along with my recommendation or do something else. But I would try to not let economic development ruin what you were trying to maintain, I know in certain areas of the city.
Thank you, and I like that you would bring it with recommendation. Thank you.
Question. What would we learn about you if we contacted citizens from your current or most recent community? What would we learn about you?
Well, I always, when people ask me a question like that, I always tell them to, you know, get an opportunity to do that. You know, contact people. I say contact the Tampa Bay Builders Association, places like that, that worked closely with me when I was accomplishing some of these things that we're talking about today, like bringing a seller to Pasco County, like working in particular areas that needed assistance. One area that comes right in their mind is an area that hadn't been seen or hadn't had any jobs for 50 years. I worked with economic development. It also worked for me in Pasco County to actually bring something to that area that hadn't had anything there since they had an old sawmill 50 years ago. And by doing that, we were able to bring water and sewer there, made that land more valuable, and development started. And another business actually showed up that was able to provide about 200 jobs. And now I understand some more businesses have, this was years ago, some more businesses have started to come in there.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Rosenthal, how would you approach the needs of more economic development and highlight any experience?
Well, I would work with, I work a lot with the economic development lady from the county. I already met her through my ride along with Councilmember Jernigan, sorry for the mispronouncement of the name. I would work, you know, readily with her to try to do some things. One of the things, experience that I have on my own is that situation I told you about the area where they hadn't had any work there since the sawmill 50 years earlier. And we brought in an area with a company that provided 200 jobs.
From your current vantage point, what do you perceive to be the opportunities and challenges facing the city of Lake City now and in the future?
Well, opportunities I see is growth and how you manage that growth. Making sure you have the people, the technical expertise to look at that growth and do the plan reviews properly. Some threats is that if you don't have the right people in place to do that, you can be sued, you know, there'll be lawsuits there. I think those are also opportunities because you're experiencing growth now, but what's important is how you grow. You don't want to grow in such a way that you put the burden of that growth on the back of the existing citizens. You want that growth to be handled as much as possible through your impact fees and your permit fees.
Thank you.
If you became the new city manager, what do you believe would be your greatest resources to help you transition into the position?
The department heads, the current department heads on staff right now, and the assistant assistant city manager now, interim city manager now.
Okay.
Mr. Rosenthal, what do you see, again, I'm just, I like the fact that you know a lot about our city, again, which lets me know you did your homework before before you got here. So what do you see as key issues facing our city, if any?
Well, I think your number one key issue is probably the growth that's going on right now and handling that growth properly. And not paying for that growth out of city funds, and using your impact fees and permit fees to do that. Secondarily, I think it's, or maybe not even secondarily, but right in line with that would be economic development. You know, bringing in new situations, new jobs, if at all possible. Again, I will work with economic development in county. They have a really nice setup over there.
Okay, the county has a really nice setup. Can you expound on that a little?
Well, there's a lady, I think she's from Texas, and she's coming in. She has a lot of, we discussed some of the ideas from some places like right downtown here. And the chief and I discussed some of this too, about things you could do to make it more profitable for the businesses right downtown and to encourage more visitations.
Thank you.
I have no question.
Okay, Mr. Rosenthal, my last question is, what makes you qualified to be our next city manager?
Well, I have about 33 years of experience as an assistant and as assistant county manager in places that was 500,000 population in Pasco County. I've dealt with every kind of problem. I've worked with every area of city government, so I think I've created programs, like we mentioned, we talked a little bit about the Acela. I've created other programs for other cities. So I think that anything that came up, we would have a good idea of how to help get it resolved by resolving it ourselves, and knowing where to go to get the assets to resolve it.
Thank you.
I want to add.
Okay, Mr. Rosenthal, how would you get to know your department heads, other key staff, and access their levels? And also, well, you can answer that one, but there's lesser two questions.
Okay. Well, just by being open, I talked yesterday telling them that if I was fortunate enough to get the job, that I would have an open door policy. They could come and talk to me anytime. That's the best way. Also, experience with me. I've been seeing that I'm honest and straightforward, and what I say is what I try and do.
Okay. And in your other jobs, what methods have you used to collaborate with staff and ensure that you're tapping into their abilities?
Well, we go right back to what I just said as far as having an open door policy, talking with and working with staff, and doing things in a collaborative type manner. I consider myself a servant leader, where I work with my staff, and that's been very productive for me my entire work life.
Okay. You all don't have any other questions? I have a few more questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. What is the highest profile public issue with which you have been involved? And what was the outcome? And what would you do differently, if anything?
Well, the highest profile issue. I think the highest profile issue, I think it's probably still on the internet, you can go and watch it, was when there was some type of old flea market in Pasco County. It's been there for many, many years. But they had allowed the place to degrade, and there were a lot of electrical hazards and things there that were dangerous hazards. Somebody was going to get killed there eventually. So it was very popular there too. So we went and we looked at it and decided it should be shut down. And a lot of people didn't want it to be shut down, but we shut it down anyway because somebody was going to get killed. So that was, in the end, the place was torn down and it's no longer there.
That was the outcome. So would you do anything differently?
I would not, no.
Okay.
I think that was the best possible thing to do. Another thing that was high profile was when they was building I'm kind of thinking as we talk, when they were building the mall on 75 and 56 in Pasco County. It's a brand new mall. They were building that, and they had, I think the building department wanted them to fix all the minor electrical issues, like little plugs in the back room, but the front room where the customer was going to be in the front areas, they were already finished, but they were holding up the occupation of the mall until those little issues get fixed. So I told them that those issues that were behind the doors, we could leave it back there and give them a timeline, 30 days to fix those issues, and go ahead and open the mall, because every day the mall wasn't open, they were losing millions of dollars. And there were no life safety issues out where the customers were, just in the back. So we made that call, and that turned out pretty well too.
Okay. Another question, Mr. Rosenthal. Tell us about your most significant accomplishment. What was the accomplishment and who helped you to achieve it?
Okay. Well, I could point to a lot of accomplishments that say they were significant, but the one that's closest to my heart was the same area I told you about at the sawmill that went out of business 50 years ago and new company came in. Well, those people also was on septic and well water. And when we went out there, we were out there looking at something else because we noticed in Pasco County that all the areas being developed except this area. And I went out there to see with my economic development guy to see if we could determine why. And we saw that everybody was on the well and septic. So that was the primary reason. There was no, utilities out there. So we worked with the state, my economic development guy and I, and with Pasco County, and we got a water line and a sewer line right out there. And of course, the value of the property went up, and they started to being able to sell their land and to do better. But I was very concerned on a personal level because of the fact that the septic field and the wells were too close, and people were getting sick and didn't know why. But it was obvious to me why, so we were able to help with that.
Okay, and I think I have one more.
Okay.
And I think you've had a similar one, but I would like to have it in my form of question. What is your management style? And this is gonna be 2 questions.
Well, I consider myself a servant leader. I'm not a dictatorial person. I work with my staff. I try and set the example for my staff, and I work in a collaborative type manner.
What is one of the most difficult management decisions you've ever made, and what was the outcome of your decision?
Well, I had a guy who was bucking against the building official, but he was a very, very knowledgeable guy, very good guy, but he didn't have the certification to be a building official. I think there was some jealousy involved. I didn't want to lose the guy's skill set because he was an excellent inspector. So one of the things I did, I separated him out, let him do special inspections for me on the weekends and even sometimes during the week, so that he wouldn't be with the building official and we could still use his skill sets. Now the reason for that is that he had worked for the county for 20 years, and my options were to find another way to utilize him or to fire him because of how he was bucking heads with the building official. In retrospect, I'm glad I did that. And about 3 or 4 years later, he retired. The building official has went someplace else now and the problem is solved. But we could have lost a very good man had I not done that.
Oh. If I may ask, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Yes. Mr. Rosenthal, I hope that and pray that the tour that you went on yesterday, I covered every area, 10, 12, 13, 14. Even though we had a paparazzi, following us all over the place, and y'all thought that was funny, and we really did I not cover anything that you needed to see, or did
I can tell you, to me, Councilman, looked like you covered everything, to me.
Okay, so I just want to let you know that I really appreciate that, and I tried to do just that, north, east, south, and west.
I think you did, yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So thank you very much.
All right, Lieutenant. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Madam
Being part of this.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we've got a couple of people want to speak. Mr. Warren.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for recognizing me. The first thing I want to point out is that we continue to be the laughing stock of the whole state of Florida. Not because of people like me come up to the podium, it is because of the lack of foresight, the lack of wisdom, and the lack of concern that you have for other citizens that live in this community. And to be more specific, Mayor, I'm referring to the fact that nowhere that I'm aware of would have taken a 1 o'clock meeting and an interview that is gonna impact the whole city citizenship of hiring a city manager at this particular time where the vast majority of people are at work, right? So, but you gotta live with that, and each and every one of y'all have to live with that. What I will say, as I sat and listened to our two candidates, that Mr. Butler, in listening to him, he has tremendous amount of experience in law enforcement. Every question you all asked him, it was only police experience. It was only he has budgeted police money, which the highest budget amount was $6.6 million. He had no experience with affordable housing. He had nothing for youth programs year round other than a program that Mr. Jones helped implement for the kids in the summer. No grant experience, nothing about grants when it comes to connecting with the greater needs of the community. No utility experience, and he also said he had no economic experience, right? And he wants a comprehensive plan to work together with the community, to work in junction for the community, but not including the community. And not to not mention anything about Mr. Rosenthal, and I would say this, I like the chief on the police side, and he can do better in certain areas, and that's a different conversation. It's not what I'm up here about. It's about the city manager position. What I like about Mr. Rosenthal is this, and it's up to you guys who you hire, but the guy is solution oriented. Everything y'all asked him, not only did he answer it, but he had a solution for it. That is what we've been missing. A person that has an answer to a problem, know the problem and know how to address the problem. And he understands development. And I've been telling y'all this forever. Tap and impact fees. I don't even know the man. The man understands that tap and impact fees is how you do it. Bear with me, I'm almost done. He has a master's degree in finance and in accounting. That's equal to what you are as an accountant, man. This man knows, he's a bean counter. He knows how to work and find the money. And lastly, he has economic development. The guy has created programs that have brought jobs into a town that had a sawmill sitting there for 50 years and put 200 jobs there. I haven't met nobody in this room since I've been 43 years old can speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bowden?
Mr. Mayor, Council Member, Bowden, I'm the paparazzi that Mr. Jennifer referred to yesterday. I happen to be a former city commissioner, worked for a member of Congress for 24 years, was the League of Cities Board that worked for 16 years. And I followed I shadowed the meeting, Mr. Mayor, to see what was going on. And contrary to what Mr. Jennifer just suggested, I want to use this time since he made this smart comment, that I did shadow him. So I know exactly what took place from 8:30 until 1 o'clock during the day. Yes, he did go around. But the first place he visited that made no sense to me as a former city commissioner was the sheriff's office. The second place he went to was out to the community college, in and out. The third place he went to was set in the parking, went out to the entrance to the mega site out there off of 9 and turn back around. Now I'm following him, so I got a whole list of the stops. From there we went to Center Street, rode down Center Street, rode by Anna Mouse Park, back down Broadway, sat in the parking lot at Bethel Church for 10 or 15 minutes. So it was a tour, right, but a ride around. The chief could have been conducting the tour. I wouldn't expect Mr. Rosenthal to say anything, yeah, it was a good tour. Man, I was there. I know where you went. I got it documented. If that was a tour, I'm embarrassed that I even spent my time following around because it was the worst thing I experienced since I've been been involved in city government. In addition to that, at 1 o'clock, you go out and eat at the restaurant. I come back trying to find him. I said, okay, where would it be? At the courthouse. So maybe he took him to north, south, east, and west. That's fine, but from 8:30 to 1 o'clock, I know exactly where he stopped. I was behind it. I got pictures. I got the time and the date. It was a waste of taxpayers' money and a waste of time, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm not going to opine, Mr. Mayor, on the selection process. I sat through this interview, and I think that from what I can observe, that, you got a choice. You got a choice between picking someone with some experience in managing the city or in local government, or you can pick somebody who will learn on the job. And the choice is yours. I mean, it's a decision that you got to make and you got to live with it. I follow Mr. Moore say, I find it very disrespectful, Mr. Mayor and council members, that a decision as serious as this, that you have this meeting at 1 o'clock in the day. I'm able to come home retired. But to have this kind of meeting at 1 o'clock in the daytime, when you do 2 interviews, they're gonna make a decision. I just think it's disrespectful. I think it's intentional. You gotta have some intentionality when you come to making a meeting accessible to the public. Was there any consideration given to the public, or was it just what's convenient for us? Working on your schedule. You gotta consider the schedule of the people. I mean, the always the child is clear. It's the citizens, it's the mayor and council, it's the city manager. And to have it at 1 o'clock in the middle of the day, man, I think it was insulting, and I thought it was extremely unfair and disrespectful. And also you say that we come to the microphone, we be disrespectful to y'all. I think to have this meeting at 1 o'clock during the day and make a decision as serious as this, it was very disrespectful. And I do agree that we need to make a decision, we go down city manager long enough, and it's time for us to move on.
Okay. Mr. Lilker?
Thank you, Your Honor. I wasn't gonna say anything, but I've been watching this since 2006, and the latest events in the city manager saga for the last, I guess, 2.5 to 3 years. America reinvents itself. Every 10 miles, you go to another community, you have another city attorney, another city councilman, a county commissioner, and they start all over again. And we work on votes, it's democracy, so what you do today is very important for the future history of Lake City, which I don't think anybody would dispute, has been pretty screwy for the last 3 years. You heard what I heard, been recorded, it's on video, and the world is gonna see. People are interested in what happens in Lake City. So people in the county will see, people in the rest of Florida will see, local politicians will see what you folks decide tonight. This whole thing went sideways maybe 2.5 years ago when you had a city manager candidate who was looking to be city manager and went to Alaska and was interviewed for another job there and said, well, the people in Alaska are much more friendly than the people in Lake City. And then said, well, sometimes you just tell people what you think they want to hear. I don't think you heard that tonight. You heard what I heard, and you heard what the 5 or 6 people that showed up today heard. It was very disrespectful that you had this at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And however that decision was, I was told that the mayor did twice. Well, once that he did make decision and once that he didn't. In the end, the mayor approves agendas in this city. That's part of being a mayor. So the ultimate decision lies with the mayor. But I would ask you guys to do this, because I believe in the process, and I think it's very important that you folks have a unanimous decision today. So you may want to vote your conscience the first time, but I would ask this, and the city attorney is supposed to be an expert in parliamentary procedure, that it be unanimous. So if it's not unanimous the first time, I would ask the person or people, one of them, that is on the other side of the equation, to ask for a motion for reconsideration. Because those on the other side are the ones that have to make the motion. And I would ask that you approve that motion, and that whichever candidate you approve has the unanimous consent and vote of this city council. I think that would work well in moving the city forward in the future. Thank you very much, Ron.
Okay. All right, I've been asked to take a break after we got to this point before we take action, so we'll take a 10-minute break. It's about 35 after, so we'll start back at 1:45. Okay, we'll call the, April 26th meeting back to order. Now it's time for the council to discuss it. Is everybody ready to take action? Anybody got any? Okay. I spoke with, Mr. Martin, and, he explained to me what the motion would be. Mr. Martin, you want to explain that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It would be my suggestion, given where everything is in the process at this point. Neither candidate has had a background check performed, and it certainly is the council's prerogative about whether to perform one, but if that is something that you would want done before any final contract is entered into, then my suggested motion would be that the motion be for whoever the selected candidate is, that you direct the city attorney, the city clerk, and the interim manager to work together to commence a background check and to begin preliminary contract negotiations with the expectation that both of those come back. We hope maybe by the 6th, but it may be a meeting, maybe a special called meeting after that, depending on how quickly we can, get our pencil sharpened on a contract and get the results of background check back. So.
Okay, any discussion by council?
I would like to start if I can. I would like to say that, I think Mr. Butler has good intentions, but he has bare minimum of required experience, that's required by charter. Unfortunately, Lake City is in dire need of more than what Mr. Butler has to offer us at this time. We need a well-experienced city manager to work together with our esteemed, our proficient department head, their staff, administration, and council. So we must get the ball rolling. With that being said, Mr. Rosenthal, he is experienced, well experienced, all around experienced. He knows his way around financially. He knows his way around economically, socially. He appears to be a relationship, person of great relationship. He is a problem solver. And it appears to me that his best interest is in the city of Lake City. And I believe he really has Lake City at heart. And with that being said, I would like to, can I now make a motion that we receive Mr. Rosenthal as our city manager right now.
But to add to that, in our one-on-one with the chief, with the chief, he expressed to me that he always wanted to be a police chief. And I don't know where the idea came from of him being a city manager, but when we was talking, that tells me right then and there that he don't really want this job. So with saying that, I second that motion.
Okay, any discussion?
Well, for what it's worth, I think we're blessed to have two excellent candidates here at the finale of all this stuff, and I think that Chief Butler is an excellent candidate and an excellent police chief, and I'm very glad that he said that regardless of what happens, he's not going anywhere, because we would be much the poorer without him. But I do tend to agree, we're on the precipice here of a lot of growth, and that growth does need proper management, guidance, and I believe that Mr. Rosenthal's experience is what we're looking for. I also think we need to make sure we clarify the motion verbally, like to how Mr. Martin said.
Mayor, also, Mr. Rosenthal is an excellent candidate, and I believe in economic growth and experience. And when he said he was in Pasco County and it was $500,000 people there and the type of budgets that he encountered. He's definitely got a well range of experience and knowledge, and I think he'll be an excellent candidate here in Lake City for the city of Lake City as our city manager.
Do I need to?
I agree, we're very fortunate to have two very qualified people. Unfortunately, I've been through that process a lot over the years, and we had very little applicants that actually had been city manager. When we had it before, we had probably 8 or 10 that had actually been city manager. I think most of them are good people, and most of them have leadership, and that's what we're needing is leadership. I think they're both good people.
And Mayor, may I add some to what I had to say? And again, in our conversation, I told Mr. Butler, Chief Butler, that this was nothing personal, but this is what the city need is a experienced city manager. So, and when I told him that, he didn't change, his expression didn't change at all. So he said, actually he told me, he said, Mr. Hill, I understand where you're coming from. So I want to put that out as well.
Anything further by council?
I can reword my motion if I need to.
Would you like me to read? Would you like me to read what I have down? Would that help? Okay.
Please.
I know you had said that you made a motion to receive Mr. Rosenthal as city manager, but did you want to use the verbiage that Mr. Martin had prepared? If so, I could read that to you and let you hear what that would sound like.
Okay, so, make a motion that we will receive Mr. Rosenthal as city manager, depending upon the, background check, right?
And contract negotiation.
And contract negotiation.
That works for me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And all that will be coming back anyway. Okay. I'll word it up and make sure that we capture everything that is needed in that
Please,
motion.
thank you.
Yeah. Because what I have down is, the motion to receive Mr. Rosenthal as city manager. And of course, everything is going to be contingent upon, the direction of city attorney, city clerk, and interim city manager working together to conduct the background check and to begin the preliminary contract negotiations with Mr. Rosenthal as city manager, but everything will be contingent upon those successful things taking place. Does that capture your intent? Okay. Mr. Hill, does that capture your second? Okay. All right, Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yay.
Mayor Witt?
Mr. Wilker's advice, but
So that, yes.
yes.
Well, like I said, we've done a great thing, much needed.
Somebody needs to tell them, I guess.
So you said that was much needed, we just want to.
I will convey the council sentiments and decision to the candidates.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
So moved.